How does it feel that after nearly 10 years, there's a guitar version of Bloodborne before the official PC version of Bloodborne? After seeing the success of my Dark Souls and Elden Ring guitar builds, I realized that this formula seems to work for me. I mean, I love these games, I love woodworking and building guitars, and I love metal music. So why not combine all and create this most niche type of content which you can stumble into while scrolling through YouTube? A guitar inspired by Bloodborne was the most requested in comments of the previous builds, so let's get started. As always, the rules are to use the most characteristic features from the game and maybe make them look a bit more simplistic, make the guitar still a playable instrument and try not to make it look too kitsch. For me, the first part is always the neck blank. I'll be doing a 7-piece laminated neck-through blank, and I've picked Macassar ebony and padouk. The reason why I choose padouk is because when you use oil finish eventually, the color of the wood will turn into this dark red, blood-looking color, and come on, blood is half of the name of the game, so that's a no-brainer. There is a wood species called redwood, but paradoxically, it's brown. If you would be ever making a neck blank for a guitar, make sure to choose your grain orientation to be quarter sawn like this, or at least something close to quarter sawn that will assure you the most stable neck. When I had all my ebony and padouk strips prepared, I glued them together and inserted towels to avoid slipping. Then I used all the clamping power I own. As I said, good grain orientation choice combined with lamination of multiple pieces of hardwood will assure the most stable, resistant neck. But if you want to go even further, installing carbon fiber rods is the way to go. That will make the neck even stronger. And of course, there needs to be a truss rod. I'll be using Macassar ebony as the fretboard material as well, and I decided that I won't be doing any fret dots on the top, but I'll be inlaying the Hunter rune in the position of the 12th fret. I'm lucky that even originally the Hunter rune isn't too geometrical, so it was really forgiving as I freehanded all the routing with my Dremel holder. And because the whole neck is a combination of padouk and ebony, I will cut the inlay from padouk to make it flow with the design. So I want my fretboard to have invisible fret ties on the edges, and the way to achieve that is by using CNC most of the time. But still, I don't own a CNC unfortunately, so I will choose a different technique. The technique I'm about to choose is to do one thin layer of padouk binding around the whole fretboard, then cut the fret slots and eventually do another layer of binding from ebony. This will create a nice red frame. Originally, I was supposed to cut the slots with my saw, but over the years, the teeth got so dull that I went for the personally tested method, sliding the Dremel router along the straight edge. I knew from the start that somehow I need to incorporate tentacles. So instead of leaving the part of the neck which goes through the body plain boring, I decided that I will make the ebony stripes shaped like tentacles, which slither throughout the game in all shapes and sizes. I cut this padouk 1/4-inch profile ending with a thick block, which I will glue on the back of the neck blank. But first, I routed the negatives of the tentacles as accurately as I possibly could, so they connect with the ebony strips seamlessly. Therefore, planing the strips of the wood in the neck blank in specific dimensions was really helpful. I inlaid the ebony tentacles, so it's still a neck-through guitar, but there's a 1/4-inch overlayer that creates a really cool looking design. Playing with the design of the back part of the neck, which is in the body, is something only few people do. But I think there's an undiscovered potential to be creative. Maybe most guitar builders leave the neck-through part as it is, simply because no one cares. I mean, for me it was 3 days of work just to do this cool little design, which will only be facing the player's belly. But still, you know, it's tentacles. It's time for me now to shape the neck into this D shape. I made myself this plywood template to kinda know how far I am with my shaping. The body wings will be from Ashwood, that's a classical choice. It will eventually be dyed black, but the cool wavy wood figure will still be visible. Also, the padouk and ebony neck is quite heavy and it will be a 7-string guitar with inline reversed headstock. That means all 7 tuning packs will be in one line on the right side, and I'm a little bit afraid of neck dive issues. So I'm intentionally aiming for a thick and relatively heavy body, which will counterweight the neck. The thing you see me holding here is poplar burl. I've always wanted to use burl wood in one of my projects, and there will never be a better opportunity than one of the features of my Bloodborne guitar. The narrowed chaotic pattern perfectly resembles many of the game's visuals. For example, the head of Amygdala, Rom, or Winter Lantern. I need to slice the burl to 1/2-inch pieces because I'm about to incorporate them in the guitar's body top, and the least dangerous way to do that was using my bandsaw. I got an idea that before I do the epoxy pour to my resin top, I'm about to stain these burl pieces before the pour, just to make sure it's dark enough. These sides are dark enough because I'm about to try to achieve this 3D look of the top, where there's the solid color resin in the bottom and then there's like slightly more transparent layer of epoxy above that. And I would be afraid that there will be no point of return if I pour this and these sides were too light. So I'm about to pre-stain them with just some alcohol-based stain. I've made this mold for pouring the resin and secured the burl pieces with double-sided tape, because they are super light and just to be sure they won't be floating, I'm also about to put some weight on them. As you saw in the intro, what I'm trying to achieve here is the blood moon visual, and first I'm pouring this purple dyed epoxy resin, which will resemble the sky. While the clear layer of epoxy was curing, I needed to visit the local barber shop to get a fresh fade. I must say I cannot recommend this guy enough. He's not cheap, but it's worth every dollar. And with the freshly faded haircut, I could move on surfacing the top. This will of course remove the black dye from the burl pieces, but I'm about to dye them in the end again. After I glued the top to the body, I carved all the cavities and a channel for the three-way switch. The guitar is gonna have a volume knob and a tone knob, and I saw this as an opportunity to engrave blood echoes and insight icon on them, which the player sees in the top right corner of the HUD. I bought these steel knobs, and with the Dremel engraving tool I was scratching the black color off. The first few attempts looked terrible, so I always sanded the whole top of the knob and sprayed black acrylic paint over so I could try again, and it took me around 3 attempts till the point I felt like I nailed it and was satisfied with the result. There's no way I would miss the chance of carving the headstock in the shape of Saw Cleaver, the most known weapon in the game. There are countless cosplay props made by fans, and people are even getting tattoos of Saw Cleaver. So originally my goal was to do a realistic version from aluminum plate and dirty bandages, but it didn't look as cool as I was picturing in my head.
Well guys, after I finished the realistic looking Saw Cleaver that would serve as a headstock for the guitar, I kinda changed my mind about this. I think it would look too kitsch or cringe, maybe even. It doesn't flow with the design of the rest of the body at all. So what I'm about to do is to make the headstock shaped a bit more like classical reverse headstock with all the tuning pegs in one line on the right side. And I'm about to use the same material as the fretboard is, and that is Machineheads ebony. And I've picked the darker part of the ebony for the headstock plate itself. And I'm about to inlay there these lighter stripes of ebony, which will resemble the bandage that is wrapped all around the headstock. That should be sufficient to be recognizable as a Saw Cleaver, and it will be most likely less ugly.
I'm super glad that I went with this version, because even though the aluminum Saw Cleaver looked more realistic, this on the other hand looks good. And also from the perspective that I want the guitar to be played, to actually be used, and not just to be a wall hanger, I cannot afford the headstock to have any sharp teeth or spikes, which would send the player to get stitches every time he tunes the guitar. So every tooth, every spike needs to be at least a bit rounded smooth. Let me know in the comments if you would approach the saw cleaver differently. I'm really curious, but this is my version. To make the pickups match the rest of the body, I poured aside a small amount of the same epoxy resin which the Bloodborne is made from to make these pickup cover plates. The coil closest to the neck had to have its upper corners cut out in a circle shape with the same diameter as the moon has, and I glued there the sky purple corners. In case you are wondering why does it take me so long to make a video, it's because 70% of the time I'm doing this.
Yeah, and the second reason why it takes me so long to make a video is because of my gently designed camera holder, designed to be really stable and rigid. You can put your phone over here, secure it, you can twist this thing as well. It's not easy.
Okay, enough of the personal stuff. I drilled holes for the threaded inserts in which the pickups will be mounted, made a control cavity cover plate, and then I could finally fret the guitar. I'd like to use this extremely important but extremely boring part of the process to promote my Instagram. Just type flame.instruments and you will find me. I don't only do these gaming inspired guitars but also some wild surrealistic stuff, and it's also a platform where you can DM me and ask me anything. You can see me here wearing the hearing protection even when I'm not working with any power tool, and it's because they also work as wireless headphones, and during my time in the shop I'm always listening to something, whether it's podcast, Asmongold reacting to stuff or music. So starting from this video I'll be doing band recommendations, so check Elende. The best way I could describe this band, imagine black metal being listenable. After I sanded the whole guitar, I could finally stain and dye the burl and Ashwood body wings.
So the staining is finally over. I've used alcohol-based stain for the poplar burl. That went quite well, actually, but it wasn't sufficient for the Ashwood. For the Ashwood, I had to use something more intense. Indeed, I used pre-color easy from Rubio Monocoat, intense black.
And I also used oil from Rubio Monocoat to finish the fretboard. It works great as a fretboard finish. Then I took the guitar home to begin the finishing process. I picked True Oil as a finishing clear coat, and I regret this very much, because at the room temperature of my home, The true oil was setting too quickly, and on the epoxy top it was leaving ugly looking streaks from applying the oil, so eventually I did the true oil finish only for the neck, headstock and the back, plus the sides of the body. I did 8 coats total, and I finished the top with Rubio just like the fretboard. That ensured no visible streaks. The true oil at least sealed the burl pieces perfectly before sanding it down and applying Rubio. Eventually I took the guitar home for a couple of days, so the finish cures completely, and I used this break to react to some of your comments.
This needs to have more views. I agree. Really love how you made something inspired by a game. With the hype of Stellar Blade, are you gonna plunge and make something thick? When can we see a Bloodborne guitar? I have no idea. Can you gift me this guitar? No. Is it as hard to play as the game? It depends. So, Bloodborne guitar next? Yes. Yeah. Wouldn't the fretboard crack after adjusting the truss rod? This is the question about the epoxy fretboard in the Dark Souls guitar, and I'm not afraid about the fretboard cracking because it's only 1/4 inch thick and it's flexible just like ebony or just like mahogany fretboard, so I'm not afraid about the fretboard cracking. Bro sounds like Squizgar. Okay, what is that?
Feels like doing that if you can find a reason to do that. Why would anyone want to? So
I must say that the absolute vast majority of all comments, or basically 99% of all comments, responses and feedback are positive, supportive and flattering. Thank you guys for that. Thank you.
I tried to use car polishing wax over the Rubio, although I'm not sure if it necessarily did anything. It for sure buffed the sheen on the back and the neck, where I used the true oil finish, but I don't know if it enhanced the sheen of the top. Overall, I'm kinda happy with the way the finish came out, but in the future, I would definitely like to step up my finishing game. I'd love to learn how to use nitro or polyurethane or something that would give the instrument a rock-hard protection. The pickups I'm installing are from Lokven's Guitars. He's the guy who also did my Elden Ring guitar pickups. He would ask, "What do you want?" and send me 300 demos, all sounding exactly the same, with only a slight difference which only someone who spent his life listening to metal can differentiate between and pick the best option. There will be a sound demo in the end, but the Ludwig soundtrack in the intro was covered by me on this guitar, and also the first few minutes of the building process were also me hitting random notes which sound good together, plus, of course, reverb and delay. What was left to do was the nuts. I bought this piece of deer antler in a shop which looked like a small, below average zoo, and it's supposed to be a chewing snack. Would not recommend it to my worst enemy, it's disgusting. However, shaping the antler went perfectly. It's not bone, it's not ivory, it's almost like something in between. Definitely less porous than bone. I strung the guitar, set the action, and was done. Eventually, I brought the guitar home to set the intonation and tuning, and then I wondered, what will be the first devilish riff I will chuck on this beast of an instrument? After I realized I would appreciate some help with the demo, I got in touch with Jakub, Vácha, the guitarist of Origin of Infinity. Check them out, the link is in the description. And we recorded just a live raw sound from the amp on my phone, so you can also see the guitar in action. This is the end of today's video. As always, I'll be looking forward to reading your comments. You can let me know what guitar I should do next. Thanks for watching, guys.
No, kámo, dobrý, ale chtěli jsme to Hotel California.